is the best way to make this Islamic education affordable to all Muslims? Islamic schools are expensive. Islamic seminars are expensive. Islamic media is expensive. Awesome question. If the universities in America are not properly teaching Islamic studies for Muslims, then where should we pursue higher education of Islam in America? Okay, two very related questions. In, again, my opinion, Allah knows best. And this will be the last question we'll take, right? Or you have tons more? You have tons more. Okay. So, as far as Islamic education is concerned, I am a big believer in providing sustainable, affordable, quality education. Now, how do you do those three things? I know some of you will not like my comments here, but I have to be true to my convictions. And I'll just say with you what I'm convinced of, and we can have a healthy conversation with it afterwards. May Allah reward all the Islamic schools all over this country for the effort that they've tried to do, or they've tried to make. And I know that if you try to criticize an Islamic school, people who work for it and have poured their sweat and blood and tears into it are naturally going to be defensive. I myself used to be the principal of an Islamic school. But I do have to say some things. I'm just going to come out blunt and say them. Number one, the vast majority of our Islamic schools in America are a monumental financial failure. Number one. Number two, they're a monumental administrative failure. Number three, they're a monumental educational failure. In other words, if the idea was we're going to teach Islam and Arabic in addition to secular studies, the two things that are taught worst in Islamic schools is Islam and Arabic. The least quality education is in Islamic studies and in Arabic. And if the idea was we're going to put our kids, and a lot of parents, let's be honest, a lot of parents put their kids in Islamic school not because they wanted Islam for their children, they just didn't want their boy having a girlfriend. That's why they put him in Islamic school, because they saw that this kid's getting a little crazy, so put him in boot camp. In other words, the Islamic school, right? So it's more of a sort of a patching the hole kind of thing. So a lot of our parents who are bringing our children to Islamic school aren't even very religious themselves. But they're only bringing them because they think it's going to plug a hole. And the thing is, the culture of an Islamic school, with very, very, very few exceptions, and inshallah this masjid is an exception, very few exceptions, the culture of the children in an Islamic school is no different than the culture of the children in public school, except that there's less interaction between boys and girls. But the things they have on their iPods, the things they're watching at home on a computer, the things they're doing on the weekends are identical to public school kids. That's pretty scary. And then on top of this, this is again my opinion, you do not have to agree with this. But this is my sentiment. The vast majority of the funds of a community, in a lot of places in America, go to the Islamic school. The masjid's built, and the majority of the funds are for the school. Yet the minority of the community, the small minority of the community, is sending their children to Islamic school. So the majority of the funds are serving a minority of the population, right? Now the thing is, I don't say stop that, but I do say that the majority of the population also has children, and they're also entitled to funds. It's just a matter to me, it's a matter of social justice. Right? It's a matter of social justice. So what do I suggest? What I believe is we need to have two things, and this will be my next week, I'll do it again. Is that okay? Can I do it again? Okay, next Sunday again. But this is what I'll talk to you guys about next week. After school programs, where our children get help with their homework, they get sports time, and they get some Islamic studies. For all the children of the community, the ones that go to public school, the ones that are homeschooled, all of them, 3 hours, 3 or 4 days a week, they're here, they're getting good company, they're getting sports, they're getting better at their academics in school, they're getting Salat al-Asr in the masjid, they're getting some Quran exposure, their reading becomes solid, they start getting into halaqat of tafsir and other things, they're maturing as Muslims, they're developing friends that are Muslims around them, so they're building this culture of affinity with the masjid and friendship around the masjid. And they're developing affinity for a role model that is Muslim. Very affordable, very sustainable, and inshallah ta'ala very powerful, that if we can do this. And we have the resources, it doesn't take money you don't have to raise funds to do this. It's very easy to put together. That's the first. The second I spoke about last night at Plano Masjid is a revolutionizing Sunday schools. But we'll talk about that another time, inshallah ta'ala. But these are two things we can do. The other thing is, we're in the age of podcasts and digital media, so a lot of Islamic education can actually be recorded education. You know, the great number of Muslims in Egypt studied the tafsir of Quran listening to, Khawatir al-Sha'arawi rahimahullah. Why? Because they were broadcast on the radio or recorded tapes and things like that. It's okay, you can listen to these things and learn a lot too. For most of the time when you're sitting in a seminar, you're listening anyway. So we need to make free recordings available. And it's easy for us to do that with iTunes and podcasts and things like that. So that needs to be a culture within the Muslims. And the other thing is, I am actually a big fan of, I'm condoning, even though I think I have ideological differences here and there, but overall I think the fact that Zaytuna College is in existence is a great success for Muslims. That the fact that we actually have an accredited college of our own, and inshallah many more to come. But we need to build our own institutions of higher learning. And if we can't get there, then the next best thing, we need to fund institutions of higher learning in existing colleges. So we have the Department of Islamic Studies run by the Muslims, funded by the Muslims. We need to be doing that. So we create opportunities for our youth to study Islam at high levels in this country. If we don't build educational institutions, we have no future in this country. It's not going to happen.
There's like new Muslims going on right now. They need the audio if we want to continue. Do you want to continue?
No, we don't have to too many people. This is what we'll do, inshallah. So I got through half of my presentation, inshallah. The other things that I wanted to talk about, I'll just give you a synopsis of it. The next two things I'm going to talk about is a business plan for masajid. How do we create a sustainable business model for masjid so they can sustain themselves? An intelligent distribution of human resources, social sciences and Islamic studies, which is a very important topic. How we need Muslims, therapists, social workers, marriage counselors, things like that. That needs to be an industry in and of itself, because our homes are broken and we need people to talk to. So this is an area that needs a lot of work. And finally, inshallah, we'll have a long conversation about engagement. Engagement means, how do we fight back against the wave of attack in the media? How do we effectively fight back? How do we engage so that our neighbors, for 5 square miles, everybody knows what this masjid stands for and they're respected? How do we do that? That's engagement, inshallah ta'ala. So that we'll have that conversation bi'idhnillah ta'ala next time. I pray that this obscure collection of thoughts was of some benefit to you, and I pray that we as Muslims are able to think seriously about our own future and about moving our communities forward. And I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal give all of the efforts that are being made by the Muslims, He gives them strength, He gives them, He fortifies them. I hope none of you take my comments incorrectly. I love Islamic schools, I do, but I don't think they're enough. I really don't think they're enough. And we have to be critical of our own efforts. If we're not critical of our own efforts, nobody's going to be. And we're not critical of them in order to bash them. We're critical of them so we learn or constructively, so we make them better and they make us better. Because that's what the institutions are there for. We're there to make them better and they're there to make us better. So we improve our masajid, we improve our schools.